अच्छा, कीपिंग इन माइंड कि कुछ स्टूडेंट्स को थोड़े से प्रॉब्लम्स हो रहे थे, so I have made this clip simply to give you more details. uh, this will help you understand comprehensively what are the things you need to cover in your research proposal. Okay, most of the students normally do a decent job, उनको as is कोई issue नहीं होता, but there are certain elements which are usually missed. This is the basic structure, this is the basic format, and we will discuss this in a comprehensive manner. This basic structure is useful for all levels of your research proposals. It can be used in your bachelor's, it can be used in your master's, it can be used in your doctoral thesis. But the problem is complexities and details will increase depending on whatever level of education you're following. This basic summary is something which is important to understand in a holistic manner. Once your proposal is done, all of these four elements should be covered. If certain elements are missing, this means the quality of your research proposal is not that good. Okay, the most important thing is relevance. You need to convince your readers what you are actually doing, number one. Number two, that your work is original, it is extremely important, and it is interesting. If it is not interesting, people will not want to read or review your proposal. Secondly, you need to let the people know that you know what you're talking about. You have information about the field. You understand what is currently happening. Where does the research stands? You need to understand that they need to know that you have a strong academic basis. If you talk about things you don't know about, for example, if you're talking about electronics and you have no idea, it shows. Nobody will listen to someone who doesn't know what they want to say. So make sure you show that you have some authority on the academics of a specific subject. Thirdly, you need to make sure, this is a very important part, that the methodology you're following, you need to defend that. You need to make a very strong case on that. You have to show that very carefully, that what kind of data, tools and procedures you'll be following. All of this will be covered in details, but the basic important factor to show and discuss here was that these are some factors which are highly important, extremely important, in the holistic manner. Okay, once you're done with your entire proposal, all of these elements need to be projected. Okay, and the final element is feasibility. Whatever you're doing is doable. Number one, it is realistic. Number two, it is practically doable within the time frame, within the funding, and within the program which is being offered. The simplest example is I would say that I am making a program which will send us to the moon tomorrow. It's literally baseless unless and until I'm working for NASA or the Russian Cosmonaut Center or something like that. I would not have the expertise or the funds or the technological know-how to do that. So that would literally make no sense. So whatever we're doing should be practical. For a country like Pakistan, saying that we are going to the moon tomorrow would not be very practical. We would need years of research. So feasibility is the next point here. A lot of students ask how long the PhD, how long should the proposal be? So this is subjective. If you're talking about a bachelor's thesis, it can be from 1 to 2 pages, roughly 500 words to 1200 words. If it's master's, it can be slightly longer. A doctoral proposal is usually very, very, very long. Most of these requirements are communicated by the university or your faculty. So requirements can vary. Bachelor's, usually we target a student around 800 to 1200 words. Now we will touch these three sections because a proposal would normally include an introduction, a little basic introduction of the topic. It will touch the literature and the methodology. So we will be covering these three elements comprehensively, so you can get an idea of what you need to do. Simply, the first part of a proposal is a pitch, and you are letting the people know that what your project is all about. Assume you're trying to sell something and you're trying to make this as attractive as possible. Your introduction should include everything possible which can make your idea as interesting as possible. Okay, the introduction will include a basic introduction of your topic, what your topic is about, what are you trying to do, the background and context. Recently we are experiencing the COVID crisis, so you might be working on the COVID crisis, on its effect on education or something like that. You will introduce the topic. Then you might give a basic background on what COVID is, when it started, and how it is affecting students in terms of the recent academic knowledge which is currently available. Then you will try to link it with your research problem. Your research problem is that students are unable to focus on their education or something like that. And so you have introduced your topic, you have given a basic background and context, and then you are linking it with your research problem statement. It can be a research problem, it can be a problem statement, and that can further link onto your research questions. How to identify a research problem, how to derive research questions is a separate topic, and we can talk on this later on. It's a very comprehensive topic. It's not something easy. Identification of a research problem is at times one of the most important and most difficult things of an entire research proposal. Okay. This is a very simple guide which will help you understand what things you need to have in your mind when you're basically doing your introduction. Who has an interest in the topic? Keep in mind that this will help you understand who are you making the thesis for or the proposal for. Are you doing it for scientists? Are you doing it for parents? Are you doing it for consumers? Or is this for practitioners, policymakers, or anyone like that? This will help you, have a specific tone. That tone will dictate what kind of proposal you're working on, because if you're writing for let's say professors or scientists or someone who are highly qualified, your entire tone will be different, and if you're doing it for consumers, your tone will be different. How much is already known about the problem? If it is a new element, you need to go into a lot of detail. If relevant information is available, you need to be more specific. Okay, what is missing from the current knowledge? This is usually the research gap, but it takes a lot of studying. You need to review literature extensively to come onto this topic. What is the new element or the uniqueness that our research will contribute to, and why is your research significant? Why is it actually worth doing? This is something which will really help you shape up your entire introduction. This is something you can work and discuss with your supervisor or teachers. They can help you with that, but this is something which should be at the back of your mind when you're doing this chapter. Now, the literature review, it is extremely important to let people know that you're familiar with whatever you're doing. So you need to understand that we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We need to understand what is happening, what people have done, and then we have to move forward. You are spending like 5 years working, and your conclusion is that you have invented a wheel. Who will use that? It's baseless, right? Because wheels already exist. If you have a strong literature, it will convince your supervisor, your readers, or everyone that you know what you're talking about. So use literature, use current theories, use every information which is practically available for you. Make sure you are examining the information you have studied instead of simply repeating what people have done in your literature and in your proposal and your thesis. So you need to make some contribution which is significant. Whenever you're doing your literature, you need to compare and contrast what are the main theories which are currently available, what are the methods that are being used, the debates and controversies, to what people are talking about, what elements they are working on, or where they agree and where they don't agree. You can work on all of that, and that can actually help you move towards something which is more practical. You need to be critical, okay? What approaches have some strengths, what are the weaknesses, which approaches may be more practical, which might not be that practical. You have to focus on that. Now, simply focus on how your research can fit in. One of the most important element here, and the place where a lot of students do have some issues, is your methodology. In a proposal, you can also call it your research design. You need, again, these are some very basic elements. You will try to cover all of them. You might have some more headings, you might have some fewer headings, and so on. One initial element could be what type of research you have. Are you going for a qualitative approach, and are you going for a quantitative approach? The most important element here is you need to justify whatever you're doing. It's not simply cherry picking, okay? You simply don't say I'm going for a quantitative research and I will do this. You would actually go for that I'm going for a quantitative research because I will be quantifying information, so I can test flana or something like that. This is more practical for us because our purpose is something like this. So you need to give relevance and logic behind things, okay? Will you be using original data, or will you be working with primary or secondary sources? Is your research design descriptive? Are you going for a correlational study? Is it experimental? Is it causal? Is it cause and effect? Is it explanatory or something like that? You might be going for something explorative. Whatever type of research you're following, you need to mention that, and do give justifications. The common rule of thumb is, if you don't know something, you will explore it. If you know something but information is limited, you will go with a descriptive approach. But if you further want to go for a causal experiment, you might go for a explanatory or an experimental or a cause and effect research approach. Okay. Sources, you need to make sure that you know what you're doing here, because either you will be using primary sources. If you are using primary sources, who are you approaching? Are you approaching students? For example, high school students in New York. Are you doing it in Pakistan? Are you doing it in India? Are you doing it in Germany? Or are you using existing sources such as newspapers or databases or archives? You have to be very specific there. Okay. How will your sample be selected? Your subjects, how will you approach them? Is it random sampling? Is it case study? Is it purposive sampling? All of the reasons you need to give. Okay. If something is not clear, you can simply Google these searches. There are hundreds of research books which can give you more information on this. This is a comprehensive guide on what elements you need to cover in your proposal. We are not touching every single element in detail, because you actually have entire courses for this. So if you have some issues with what quantitative research is, you can simply Google quantitative research or methods of quantitative research. If you have some issues with sampling types, you can write research sampling types. You can Google random sampling. You get a lot of information on that. Okay, so I don't think it should be that difficult here. Again, if you have any problems, feel free to ask questions. Another thing is, when and where will you collect data? Because time and location has a significant role here. If data is collected in a classroom, the result can be different. If it is collected in a home, it will be different. If it's collected in the ground, it is different. Okay. Timing is important. If you collect in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, it can have a different role. And timing does not necessarily mean the specific time, or it can also refer to, is it being collected during working hours? Is it collected in leisure hours and stuff like that? Research methodology, what tools and procedures will you be using? Are you using a survey, questionnaires, interviews, observation, experiments? All of this will be very important, but you need to justify why. Certain things can be collected easily using interviews, because some information cannot be collected, or it's not practically collected using questionnaires. So justify whatever you're doing. Okay. Mention why are this the best methods for your entire problem or your research questions. Practicalities, may you need to understand how much time you have. Will you how will you gain access to the participants, especially during the COVID crisis? If you go for face-to-face interviews, is it even feasible? Is it practical? So all of these practical things you need to keep in mind. And a lot of times, especially in masters or doctoral thesis or proposals, your supervisor or university may ask that give us a research schedule. So it's something like this. Okay. It's simply the initial phase. Let's say I'm doing a background research, or I'm writing literature. I will be conducting these things, and I'll be submitting it around on this date. Research design will be done. These things will be covered, and this is the date I'll be covering on or submitting on. These are some things you need to keep in mind if you are asked for. Some universities ask for this, some universities do not. This is a very simple example, but at times it can increase. There are times we have 3-4 options. There are times we have 15-20 options, depending on the complexities of your research. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Okay.